that you're like, when is that proper point? Like, am I ever going to be ready? Like, what's going to happen, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And during an unfortunate change of management at the dealership, you know, all this phenomenal management that was there, a big shakeout happened, and they're all moving to different states. And I was the only one that didn't. I was like, I'm not going anywhere. I don't want to go anywhere. You know, like, this is where I moved my family, and I'm not moving back to the Midwest at all. And I was kind of forced out, pretty much, you know. And that was the moment where it was a sink or swim moment that I'll never forget for the rest of my life, because it's the best day of my life. You know, I look back on it now, and everything would have been different. And it forced me at that point, like, it was like, that I'm like, I got to give this everything that it has. We were like 3 months away from launching our first super custom piece.
Mm-hmm.
And it was the first one that we had made completely our own. And everything, the custom on it, every like bell and whistle that I thought at the time it could have. And it was a perfect fabric, and we had custom colors that we designed, and, you know, everything was there. And it was like, you know, I'll never forget, that was 2 months after me leaving Harley. I now have, you know, no benefits for my family. I now have 2 kids. I had bought a house, so I'm looking at my mortgage and everything else. I do have like a decent income coming in as far as sales at that time, but we're trying to get rid of the last bit of that product,
mm-hmm.
as we were going to have that, you know, our first huge shipment come in. And pretty much I put everything that I had into that shipment. And I was really just like, I remember the day before our first launch, our first like big launch like that, it was like, I hope this works, because if it doesn't, like, everything we own is right there.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, we're $70,000 in the hole, all in this, and anything else that we had extra, we used to buy the house. And, you know, I mean, this is everything. This is that defining moment, you know. And that next day we did $60,000 in sales online.
Wow.
And it was like, yeah, it was like, okay, we could do this. You know, this could be done, until realized, like, now we have to pack all those orders. Just me and my wife. So I mean, these things that everyone goes through as entrepreneur, I'm thinking that, like, my story is probably a little bit different because it's in clothing and whatnot, but there's things right now that you're probably hearing, or things that you're, you know, that whoever's listening to this right now is hearing, and they're like, man, I remember that moment that's disguised as the worst thing that's ever happened to you, you know, forever, the worst timing ever, you know, and you look back at it as your business grows, and your business is, you know, it's your baby, and it's this phenomenal, beautiful thing that you've grown, and you look back at it and you're like, that's the best day of my life, man. If that didn't happen, none of this would be here.
Yeah.
You know, like, I almost like would have walked away from it, and all of it disguised as just another normal day.
Yeah. Yeah. No, you're right. And what is pretty typical with successful entrepreneurs is that we go all in. You know, we go all in,
right.
we throw it all into the wind, and then we work our ass off to make it succeed. And, you know, that's what it takes. People think it's handed to you. And I love hearing how long you worked for Harley, even though you were selling shirts successfully, and how far your business had come. You realized personally you needed to do both, and you were grinding it out. And I think people often don't see that part, and they just see the finished results, like, oh, look at Dan, he's got a new car, a new warehouse, he's kicking ass. You know, it's easy for him. They don't realize how hard you worked to get there.
Oh yeah, absolutely. That is definitely a big common misconception, you know, and I really got to thank my wife for it, because when, you know, like I had mentioned, when we were laying in bed and we talked about that, when I was telling her, hey, this is fine, I could just, you know, maybe I just do this. Maybe I do this and we take the vacation time. Maybe I do this and whatever. And she told me that night, you know, you were never going to be happy doing that. You know, these rules, the politics, all this stuff, you're never going to be happy until you are all in on your thing. You know, it's your baby and everything that you love, you know. And she's right. You know, I couldn't, you know, had I done that and I just become a button pusher, I wouldn't have been utilizing, you know, so many things that I love about this. And the thing is that the money isn't the thing, the number's the thing, you know.
Yep.
The end result isn't the thing, the hustle is the thing, the game, you know. It's like the gamble, you know. That's, I think, with so many entrepreneurs that are successful, I think that's a big common area where that's the drug. Like that's that's that thing that you love about it. It's that drive and everything that gets you, and that's what gets you out of bed in the morning. There's no longer anyone to tell you that you have to do it. I don't have to be here every day, and I could take a ton more vacations and everything else. But it's like, this is what I love to do. And I love to create, and I love to see, like, is it going to work? Is it not? Like, is this the one where we go belly up? And it's like, that's it, and that spells it out for us,
Danny, what was your first pattern that you came up with? That first custom pattern, what color was it?
So the hammer, which is like a 3-colored buffalo plaid, it's like kind of like a regular checkered, but it was red, black, and white, which you'll see come out again in 2020. Mm-hmm. It was called the hammer, and that was pretty much our first one. And lately, each year we'll go back to around the first ones and kind of re-release them, so that they have like all, now we have the hidden collar buttons to make sure that the collars don't flap, and like pinhole pockets and whatnot, and button improvements, more custom features. So we'll kind of like go back on those first ones, mm-hmm. and to be honest with you, so like, that first shipment went phenomenal and it was great, but we ended up having issues with our wrists, and all the wrists were ripping, which is a whole new thing, a whole nother thing that as an entrepreneur you go through. So it's great and incredible for me to tell that story, but going back to it, those are like flannels that I wish I never had to see ever again. It's like, talk about a roller coaster. When you get into new manufacturing, you have to understand that like there's so many things that could go wrong. Yeah. And they all did. There's all kinds of things that went wrong, and things that we didn't know to look for, or, labels getting sewn on, upside down, like things like that happen that like you never think of until you go through all that. And then now, you kind of like, I fast forward it was kind of like going to the school of hard knocks, and it makes you learn, you learn at an accelerated rate. You find out all the things that are going to work and all the things that are not. And it's full of sink or swim moments and defining moments that are going to figure out that it's like, you're only as good as however you take those problems coming your way, and that becomes, you end up finding out that that's your job. As a successful entrepreneur, your job is daily finding the best ways around obstacles and how to turn unfortunate situations into your defining moments of business. And that's kind of everything,
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Essentially.
All right, I got to shift a gear here for a second because I have some marketing questions for you. First of all, did you always know that you had a badass marketing last name, or what made you decide to use Dixxon as the name of your company?
So we started off as Stay Gold Flannel Company.
Yeah.
And we ran into some trademark issues. Again, it's a young company mistake.
Yeah. Yeah, sure.
and ended up having to change our name. And Dixxon's actually not my last name. My last name is Dreyer.
Okay.
And then the marketable version of it was just that I thought Danny Dixxon sounded awesome, and it kind of told everybody where I was from.
Yeah.
So that ended up like being my Instagram name, and then it caught on to the point where, and now I couldn't change it. Like it's like this weird one-word name that works,
Yeah.
So we were gonna change our name to something kind of Americana sounding, like Dixie. And then as I'm like, racking my brain, pacing back and forth for several weeks, trying to figure out what I'm going to do, because I just got in this trademark issue with my first company name, and we're actually selling stuff. And like, I realized that a lot of the best brands are pretty ambiguous as far as the names. They didn't really mean much, and it didn't say much about them to be it, Mm-hmm. And I thought that, in Dixxon, California was this, place that, up north that was, I just kept on looking at it for some reason, and adding the X like made it look really cool, and it sounded kind of like Dixie did, but we couldn't use Dixie because a new chopper shop had opened in Long Beach that was utilizing the name at the time. And so from there it became this thing. And one of my buddies is talking about like how he's like, like quality is like your thing. Like, it's like, that's what you're chasing after. And, you know, if we can, like, you know, tie that into the website name and everything, then like that'd be awesome. Like that's exactly what we should do. And then, so that's kind of those, you know, there were late night garage talks that kind of turned into all that stuff.
Well, it sticks and it's good.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
you know, and it's another one of those moments where you think it's the day that, you know, that ruins you and that you feel like giving up, and then it just ends up sticking, and it ends up being, you know, a great thing that happened, you know?
Yeah. Well, it's, like I said, it's a badass name. All right. Second marketing question, with a compliment to lead. I love how much you promote and talk about your wife and your business and on your personal stuff. It's clear you guys are in love. You're happy. You're playing way above the rim like I am. So congratulations on that. But
you're so right.
so here's my marketing question. And I love this. I think about you is, I'm looking at an old post on Instagram. It says the best thing in life is boobies. How many shirts have boobies sold, specifically your wife's boobies? Because I notice, you know, again, no offense, but I notice you utilize them a lot in your social media and your sales tactics.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So one of the things is, like, as a brand like this, and, you know, and it's like, you know, we're like, hey, we love beautiful women. Beautiful women are awesome. We don't want it to be like, that's the only thing that we do, but we want to make sure that we're definitely a brand that doesn't leave it out. You know, and we're lucky that, you know, a ton of beautiful women wear our products. So the best way when your wife thinks that all you do is get pictures of beautiful women in your guys' inbox all the time is make her feel part of it and utilize her as well. And my thought has always been that, like, the more you guys see my wife and everything like that, the more that you know that I don't need to be creeping on, you know, random Instagram girls and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And then it makes it very inviting for other women too. And then we get to utilize that marketing to where, like, you know, I think that they're more comfortable with us because they know that, you know, like, say the girls that work for us are, you know, they're always in the pictures and stuff. And then, like, my wife and, you know, the other guys' wives that work here as well. And, you know, and in that way it's like, I think it's been a way to keep it very tasteful still, you know, towards women, and not, you know, not just so blatantly like risque. And the nice thing is like, we've never used paid models before. Like, we get hit up daily. Like, what can I do to model for you guys? Blah, blah, blah. And we just use customer submitted photos.
Love it.
You know, and that's just been a great thing for us. You know, especially when you're a younger brand and you're trying to keep that overhead low, and it's a big mistake, I feel, that a lot of new brands use. They go out there and they just, you know, they're just throwing money out there, or they just straight up are like at the strip club and using, like, you know, a very different, like, caliber of marketing than say, like, our style.
Yeah.
And so our style is like, I think it, you know, I think for that demographic anywhere between, you know, 25 to 50 years old, really understand that, like, this is like, it's a tasteful way of, you know, of utilizing, you know, the assets that these beautiful women have.
Pardon the pun.
I should say, you know, and yeah. And a lot of them are like, they're professionals or they're moms, you know, and it's kind of an awesome thing because I think that they, you know, they feel good and makes them feel sexy and everything. And so it's, you know, it speaks for itself, I think.
Well, and I think, you know, the genius in this is that you're speaking to a culture, Harley riders, you know, et cetera, bike riders, and a culture of people where it resonates with them. But I love that you brought the tastefulness into it and kind of elevated that whole segment because, you know, I've been around that lifestyle and seen a lot of it, and it can get pretty trashy, but you've really elevated that. And I think it speaks to the quality of your product too. So, well done on
Definitely.
that. I did have to ask though, there was just a classic photo. It was a revealing photo of your wife from the backside. And you said, go ahead, guys, it's okay to comment or something like that. Like, don't be shy to like this photo.
Yeah.
You know, I just...
Don't be afraid to like this.
Yeah, exactly. Just as an overarching marketing question, you know, I'm a customer, as I mentioned earlier, and I was the vice president of marketing for Kettle One Vodka for 10 years until we sold $1 billion sale. And I know a little bit about marketing. when I see your stuff come through, I am constantly impressed, Danny. I mean, you guys